Bad juju.
Great part about it.
Or every ounce of my soul. Oh, yeah, yeah.
They told me they sold their house.
They made him stay there another year. And that's what I had.
It should be nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When I do
Yes.
I just need you too. We shut down.
I gotta stop not eating before I put it. Hello.
Oh.
Does Miss Lockley need to stay for her? We're just gonna say that it's gonna happen, right? Yeah, okay, so she doesn't need to be here for that, right? What's up?
The matter of getting the plan.
Yeah, I know, she doesn't need to be here. She wants to know if she has to be here tonight for this. And I said, probably not. Yeah.
Lisa. Thank you, Bethany.
What, you didn't have any winners? It's my fault? Yeah. Not my fault. It's done. No, no, not on me. I use my credit card so I can open
Days. Happy New Year. Very well.
You see, that's what happened from the bad luck.
Did you see?
I did see it, but I didn't open it yet even to read it.
Okay, well, she's talking about they have some recycling events, we shouldn't have dates. That's all.
You want me to sign some
Better is if she can get it, Facebook page or whatever.
Yeah.
That sounds-
He was. They were posted on, or we got an email with the link, you can look at them, but I don't know if they're on the website or anything. Well, I've, yeah. Okay, yeah, somebody had it.
Yes, we do, and it's loud.
Yep, Mr. Lee, watch your toes. All right.
Yeah, but we
Madam President, you can see.
Yeah, it's. Hello, Dean.
How you doing?
Oh, the shooting, oh, yeah. I see that. Yeah, did they say it was just like a
Ready when you are.
what was it?
Make sure you have that set up. It's not on right now.
Yeah.
Pretty gun. Not it. Yeah. Already. Haven't gotten to that part of it. Oh. Yeah.
You're signing out, agenda item, you sign the bottom if you're looking at the more copies of it out.
Were they were sent by standard.
Green one.
Wow.
Red one, the red one doesn't work. Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hello.
Just something I just want to say quickly, before we start our meeting. I appreciate all of you residents that show up every meeting, people that join in on Zoom. It's important, you know, as a community, you guys show up to these things if you want your voice heard. I appreciate it. But the one thing I just want to remind everybody is, you know, respect is, we need to have respect with each other. We want you to get up here, talk, you know, say what you need to say. You have that right. We want to listen and possibly give you the answers if we can. We really need to start respecting each other. We cannot, you know, have emails and things like that, threatening emails, anything, you know, harassment, just putting people down, things like that. We just can't have that. We can't. This is why we have these meetings. So, you know, just be mindful. We're human beings first. Okay. And we need to respect each other moving forward. But with that, you know, said, we're going to go ahead and call to order. Have the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Council Vice President Bernice Clark Dickerson.
Present.
Counselor Douglas Eager.
Here.
Counselor Beth Ann Johnson.
Here.
Counselor Michelle Miller,
Here.
Council President Shante Miller,
Present.
Counselor Michelle Roberts,
Present.
Counselor Walter Stubbs,
Here.
the Honorable Mayor Amanda Hammack.
Present.
Madam President, also in attendance besides myself would be the Secretary, Ms. Martha Preston, our our engineer, Charles Catania, and I believe this would be the welcoming of our first meeting with Chief Ken Lawless.
Okay. All right, we don't have, so for announcements, council met in an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel issues and potential litigations. We do not have any presentations tonight. Any public comment on any of our action items?
First one's Mario Sanito.
Mario Smito, 46 South Morton Avenue. For the past 15+ years, Borough Council has gotten this borough hard-fought reputation that Morton doesn't roll over for anybody, whether it be Springfield or SEPTA or the FOP or Delcora, PennDOT. We certainly don't have a responsibility to maximize the profit of a private corporation at the expense of the well-being and safety of our residents. So I see no reason, I hope your solicitor has advised you that there's no reason that you would choose to help that corporation profit over the interest of your residents. That would be a terrible way to squander that reputation and start out this new council. And I just implore you not to go down that road. Thank you.
Jackie Guy.
Jacqueline Guy, 635 Country Lane. I wanted to talk, I know we're gonna touch on this in a little bit about the on-street parking on Country Lane and the mailboxes. I just wanted to know if at some point we can look at I can get together some community support for that. Some input for that from the residents on Country Lane, because we've had this problem for several years now. And my other issue so I see you're gonna close out the basin grant on the Country Lane basin. There's still some things that need to be done. They reattached 3 of the downspouts from Country Circle, but they didn't attach the last 2. So they're still seeing flooding on that land right there. So I don't know why they didn't put all of the downspouts back in that were there originally. So before they close that out, you really need to look at that, because that land's gonna start going into the basin, because so there were downspouts, they used to go into the basin. Now 2 of the downspouts are just collecting, they're just pooling in front of the basin, and eventually that land's gonna slide into the basin. So before you guys vote on to close out the work, somebody needs to go and look at that, because it's gonna become a problem. Thank you.
I believe you're next, Mr. Hunt.
Bill Hefner, 571 South Old Middletown Road, Media, PA. I have several businesses here in Morton. And I looked at what we spent on the budget for January. I have several questions, and I know I only have 3 minutes, so I did put a list of things out that you guys could share if you can't answer everything tonight. But I do have a few questions besides that list. One is that we're looking to hire a groundskeeper that's going to run about $50,000 annually. Just wondering, have we decided where it's coming from, because there is no budget item for that? That's my one question there. And then let's see.
Still short one.
And then on a few of the payments that we made this month already, a few things that are standing out is like the repairs and maintenance services. Right now, we're 261% over budget, based on the budget was $1,000 and we're $2,600. The tree trimming is not in the budget, but it's coming out as an expense. I believe we have a grant to cover that cost, but it's probably should be a different way of accounting for it rather than putting it in our current expenses, which is reflected against the budget. I don't understand, there's Kelly Images. I looked up this Kelly Images and it's a wedding photographer. And we spent $600 for pictures or something. And I was just curious what it was, because it's actually under the miscellaneous expense, and that's 33% of the budget already for this year. So I don't understand where that went. And then, Solicitor Ewald, his, he was 4665, that's 24% of the annual budget already. I was just curious, is that going to keep up, or what's going to happen with that question? Then another question on the same list is we have Oliver Heating for $790. Is that under the warranty of the heaters on the roof, or is that something different? So these are a few of the questions, and then there's some minor things I have questions on. So I'll stop now, and this way, if you want to respond, or I can sit down, whatever you wish.
We're gonna, have you have a seat and everything, and we'll take everything you said under advisement and get back.
Okay, will I get an answer tonight?
No,
None. So I won't even get the answer about where the money's coming from to pay for the groundskeeper that we're advertising.
no, not tonight.
Okay,
We'll get back. to you.
okay, would these be on the next month's agenda item? Since it hasn't been decided tonight,
I'm sorry, say that again.
since these questions have not been answered, would that follow through to the next meeting as agenda items of things that are not answered?
I don't know if they'll go on the agenda, but they'll be getting your answer. Okay.
We'll get an answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next is Joe Boylan.
Good evening, council.
Good
I'm Joe
evening.
Boylan. I live at 23 Althea Lane. I do have a lot of questions tonight. I'm going to split my time between comment on the agenda items, since a number of them are there, and I'll come back at the end to discuss the rest. I appreciate the comment regarding respect. I would also respectfully turn this back on council and say, please respect the budget that we spent hours and days and many public meetings assembling. The bill list for the $600 that Mr. Hefner referenced, I know what that's for. I think Mr. Hefner also knows what it's for. Not budgeted, seems to have resulted in glamour shots to be posted to the website that is not updated. So your names aren't even out there, but somehow I guess those pictures are going to end up there. The fact that we would pay the spouse of our highest paid borough employee last year $600 when we could have gotten anyone from the borough to take those pictures, I'm having a hard time with that. The most recent muni billing fiasco, I hope somebody's looking into that. We should get a refund. The discounted amount to be paid by all residents is not on the bill. Regarding the full-time new hire, again, this was not included as part of the budget. Borough manager and anybody on council had the opportunity to raise the idea that we needed another full-time employee. That didn't happen. So I hope council will explain exactly what this person will do that is not currently being done by our staff, including the 4 part-time hires that we added to our ranks last year. On that same note, I hope council knows that you cannot use liquid fuels money to pay this new person. You can only use it for the part of the time that they actually work on the roads. So this $50,000 is not budgeted, has not been explained. I hope you will take the time to enlighten us all when you reach this item on your agenda.
Thank you for your comment. Take it under advisement.
Michael Fiorentino.
Evening, council. Michael Fiorentino, 32 Providence Road. I'm here to speak about the street opening permit, conditional approval proposed for the developer Pramika Swami Maharaj LLC. Frankly, stunned be standing here looking at this conditional approval. Given the stated position of council regarding this exit onto Leamy Avenue that I've heard in this forum for probably a year and a half. I see the independent review by Federico Consulting. And I just don't understand exactly what was reviewed, if what was done that was independent, other than a simple review of the developer's traffic engineer's work. Because I don't understand how an independent review of this could come to the conclusion that a left turn out of the Leamy Avenue proposed exit with a hill going up and lines of traffic being there for many hours of the day, how that is safe, how that is not going to cause accidents and be a drain on the resources of this borough. Not to mention the obvious safety implications for not only the drivers involved, but pedestrians, cyclists that would be using that road. I have 4 children, 3 of whom still live in our home, and they travel, some of them travel on that street. There is no sidewalk leading up to Baltimore Pike. It's shocking to me that in 2023, this borough has no safe pedestrian pathway to the main thoroughfare and across to Springfield, where all their schools are. Shocking. It's also shocking to me that apparently Borough has gotten behind the notion of supporting this based on receiving a couple of items of value that the developer is willing to toss the borough's way, none of which appear to have any relationship to the safety issues that we're dealing with on Levy Avenue. So that is disturbing as well. It's not safe to be turning left out of that intersection. Any of you have tried to turn left out of a line of traffic into oncoming traffic coming the other direction. I'm sure you know you're taking your chances. You're relying on faith to pull out. It's not safe.
So, Mr. Fiorentino, I am gonna address this, just primarily because I know there's a number of people here in the audience who are concerned about this issue. And because this is an issue that Borough Council took very seriously and is concerned about themselves. The proposed development for the Wawa is something that this Borough Council had no jurisdiction over the approval. It was wholly a land development application in Springfield. The only aspect of this application that comes before the borough is the street opening permit.
Correct.
Now, this council did take very sincere and specific interest in this application, in this project, and went so far as to hire an independent traffic engineer who's very respected in this county, who represents municipalities, not developers, and who has a very critical eye towards these things. He did not just read the report of the traffic engineer for the developer. He went out and he did a site visit. He reviewed all the plans that were submitted to PennDOT. He interviewed the engineers at PennDOT, and he did review their all the submissions from the applicant. And his independent judgment was that turns coming left out of that property are safe. They meet the parameters of the engineering review. That was also the opinion of PennDOT's engineer. And yes, it was the opinion of the applicant's engineer, but obviously that was always going to be the opinion of the applicant's engineer. But both our own independent engineer and the PennDOT engineer came to the same conclusion. So there is a report, and I assume you've already got a copy of it from Alfred Rico. That report identified several specific concerns that he had And the concerns that he had were that he wanted some sort of physical barrier preventing left turns in off of Leamy because it was a no left in situation. And when they originally proposed it, there was just an open driveway. In response to that concern, the developer installed what's called a pork chop island, which creates a physical barrier to prevent people from turning left, but allows a right-hand movement into the driveway. He had concern that the proposed improvements to the intersection would not be effective unless they were to acquire certain land on the opposite side of the road on the Bob's Furniture site. And the developer and Springfield Township have already acquired that land. So that concern was satisfied. He had concern about the striping for the left turn movements that are supposed to reduce that backlog on Leamy. And the developer agreed that they'd work with him on making sure the striping met his parameters. He had concern about the stormwater that would be generated from creating that additional lane on the right side of the road as you approach Baltimore. And the developers agreed that, number one, they're going to submit to all of the requirements of PennDOT. But beyond that, they're also going to allow our backup engineer who's handling this matter, JP Kelly and Associates, that they will review all of the stormwater parameters for controlling the water coming off of that lane, and it'll all be captured. You know, he had concerns, and the developer has addressed and satisfied all those concerns very directly. And so ultimately, this council has to make a decision whether they believe their own expert and will follow the advice of their own expert, and they've chosen to do so. And there's no traffic engineer report out there that actually finds that left turns off of this property wouldn't be safe. There's a lot of neighborhood concern, and there was a lot of concern here from council. Council wanted to make sure it was safe. Council was concerned it wouldn't be safe, but they went out and they spent the tax dollars to get the review of an independent expert. And that expert, if that expert had to come back and said, this turn movement is not safe, I believe council would have fought it. You know, I can't tell, you know, because that's just hypothetical, but ultimately they had an obligation to be prudent with the township's coffers, and they spent the money to get the review, but they didn't go against that review. And ultimately, if they had gone against that review, it would have resulted in substantial amount of litigation costs, trying to determine trying to get a ruling from the court to try and prevent it.
Thank you, Mr. Ewald. And just briefly to say that one of our group that have been fighting this development for some time did a right to know request from the borough and received a 10-page document, which was essentially just the summary memo. We were not provided with any kind of documentation from Mr. Federico detailing the additional things that you said that he did beyond reviewing the documents that were on file in Springfield performed by the engineers for the developer. So I was not aware that he did an independent review. I'm still frankly shocked that there would be discussion in his report about how it was not good to have a left turn into the development coming down Leamy when there's 120 yards above it of empty space, not a real safety issue at all. Yet he felt that was prohibitable or should be prohibited. But trying to inch out into traffic, people coming down 30, 40 miles an hour, down Leamy, you're going to turn left. You can't even see up the hill. I'm sorry, it's just common sense. So I thank you.
I don't want to get into a big back and forth because I know there's other people who want to speak. PennDOT was the one that prohibited the left-hand turns into the property. And that's based on a concern or a mathematical equation that shows that there's a risk that if there's someone stopped there turning left, it backs up traffic into that intersection with Baltimore. It's not a matter of whether that turn can be made safely into it, it's whether it backs up the traffic and interferes with that lighted
I
intersection.
understood that, yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep. Ms. Todd.
Cecilia Todd, 110 Althea Lane. Thank you for your explanation, Mr. Ewald, in reference to the work that council has put into the so-called negotiations or review of traffic calming measures. I have a copy of Frederico's review. It is dated December 11th. It was received by you during the prior council's term. In the report, he mentions that the physical design of the driveway should prevent vehicles traveling south along Leamy Avenue from making the prohibited left turn movement into the development. Regulatory signs are also required along Leamy Avenue to allow the restrictions to be enforced. The land development plan obtained from Springfield did not include measures to physically restrict the movement. A progress section provided by the developer's engineer included an island within the driveway, but it does not appear to be adequately restrictive. So, you know, the report's available, everybody, for a right to know. If you want to read it and see it, please ask for the attachments that should have been given that are referenced in this report. Respectfully, this is what I came to talk about tonight. The street permit, the street opening road occupancy permit is being voted on tonight, or it's going to be discussed. How is this going to affect our traffic? When will it happen, and how long is it going to be affecting our traffic? Can it be prohibited? Do you have to issue this open streets permit? I'm appalled that traffic calming measures were made part of this deal. And a mini roundabout on Althea Lane and Locust Road. What the heck is that? What the heck is a mini roundabout in the middle of my development that's been acceptable for years and years? And why do you have to put speed bumps on Walnut Street? What does that have to do with this open permit? It doesn't have anything to do with it. Walnut Street, you're going to put them down by churches on Walnut Street near Bradford or what? Yeah, Bradford Terrace. And you're going to put signs up that say local traffic only. Nobody heeds those signs. The zoning people in Springfield even admitted that they go through stop signs. I'm appalled that these measures were discussed in November and December and not brought to light until tonight. It's appalling. It's appalling that has happened.
So the traffic calming measures that are proposed, one of the concerns of the neighborhood with regard to the Wawa was that it would increase traffic through that Providence corridor. The borough's obviously already installed several traffic calming measures on Providence and has received complaints from the community that some of those traffic calming measures are perceived to then push traffic onto the Leamy Avenue, and there's been complaints from the Leamy Avenue neighborhood about traffic coming through there. So ultimately, you know, the developer did offer to make traffic calming measures available on Providence, and it was something that, because we already have traffic calming measures there, we look to areas of the borough where we've had considerable amounts of concern from the residents. You know, since I've been the solicitor here, every year we have complaints coming from the Walnut Street neighborhood about the traffic and the speed of the traffic, and we've done several studies, but this is an opportunity where we could get traffic calming measures implemented. Now, these traffic calming measures that are listed in here, I believe you probably already know, are proposed, but not finalized, because the borough is going to have a meeting with those two neighborhoods to get their feedback on how the traffic calming measures would be implemented. So ultimately, we're looking to serve those two neighborhoods because they've had such repeated complaints about traffic and speed of traffic, that we're looking to then make some improvements to alleviate those concerns for those residents.
Are you aware, though, that the permit says install through right turn lanes, service utilities and driveway along Leamy Avenue using PennDOT approved materials, along with traffic calming measures on Althea and Walnut Street is outlined? You issue this permit, you're accepting these traffic calming issues. You are accepting it. Don't issue this permit. You haven't talked to the residents. It's just been made public, and it was discussed last year with prior council. Don't do it. Oh, there's one other thing that's in these notes too. Borough Council, as part of this traffic calming measure, will receive a reimbursement up to $5,000 for the traffic study that they did. That's a payoff.
Thank you for your comment. Vera A.
Hi, Dara August, 137 Althea Lane. I want to talk to the traffic calming measures that they're trying to put on Althea Lane. It's concerning to me. I have a daughter who's visually impaired and hearing impaired, and we live the second house in from Providence Road. So if people are going to be cutting through that neighborhood, I want to make sure my child's safe. You know, she's special needs, she's autistic, and a slew of medical issues to top it off. And I need to make sure she doesn't, she runs. She'll dart down the driveway if somebody's coming around that corner, and believe me, they don't follow the speed limits. You know, I try pulling out of my driveway and I'm already halfway out and there's somebody zooming around the corner. I was literally on Leamy the other day, 4 cars down, getting ready to make a left onto Baltimore Pike, and somebody 3 or 4 cars behind me got into the left-hand lane, oncoming traffic, and drove all around us to make sure that he made the light. And this was a Delaware tag. They're aware of the neighborhood. They're aware that this is an issue, and we all live here. How come we're not aware? Like, how come we're at this point and we have to fight tooth and nail for you guys to realize that there's kids in the neighborhood? A roundabout on Althea Lane is not an option.
Fire truck's not going to get past it.
So
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're implementing these measures to try and address the concerns that you're expressing.
So you're gonna feed traffic down Althea
No,
Lane into a neighborhood.
No, they're not. They're not trying to feed traffic down there. In fact, they're trying to discourage traffic from going down Althea, and they're trying to slow it down when it does go through Althea.
And they're what's the roundabout? How are
So-
they gonna take a property from people?
No,
Like,
no,
how is that gonna-
a mini roundabout sits within the intersection. And it's specific, it's designed to go into a normal intersection and create a traffic, a traffic pattern that slows down the traffic. And ultimately, when we have the meeting, look, I'm a lawyer, I'm not an engineer. We don't have any engineers on this board that I know of. We'll have our traffic engineer here and you can ask him questions. And it may be that they don't decide to do the mini roundabout, although this is a concept that I've seen used now in media and other places in the county. It's a relatively new concept of traffic control measures. So it's something that a lot of us haven't actually seen before, but we're not talking about a giant traffic circle. This is a raised island in the middle of the intersection that's marked in a way to direct traffic and try and slow it down.
Okay.
But go.
Since you're saying that we're gonna discuss this, does that mean that you guys are not gonna vote on this tonight? Because I thought that's what we're doing.
So there is no vote. This is
This is
like,
an approval
a
of it,
street,
though,
a
right?
street opening permit is a ministerial act that's handled based on the standards by
But
the
it's-
engineer.
But those aren't they the standards? What was written in that document?
Those are agreed conditions that are proposed by the developer. But
But if you approve it, aren't you agreeing to those positions?
so ultimately, the borough is not, there's no vote tonight, and the borough does not, what would happen, I guess, would be, the borough would vote to authorize the solicitor's office to bring an injunction action and spend, tens of thousands of dollars to try and fight the left-hand turn. But ultimately, in order for this street opening permit to go through, the borough council doesn't have any role in that. What they're trying to do is with these proposed improvements for the traffic control, they're trying to have a meeting, and I'm not sure exactly what the date is. Are we doing it at the next council meeting, or
Are they gonna give us ample time and not plan it like the last meeting was right before Christmas? I mean, anybody with kids is wrapping gifts, doing whatever they need to do. And now this is on Valentine's Day. It's not ideal. Like you guys I
ultimately,
feel like Wawa is doing this on purpose so that they don't have the opposition. They don't have all the people that were going to the Springfield meetings because they're making it at times where nobody wants to go.
so Wawa has nothing to do with this next meeting. Wawa, and frankly, Wawa has nothing directly to do with any of this. There's a developer that's proposing to create this for Wawa. The developer has nothing to do with the meeting on Althea. The developer would come in and put in
Who's
traffic.
the developer? Oh, okay.
I don't know the name,
Okay.
off the top of my head. It's Pramukh Swami Mirage LLC.
It's an LLC.
It's the owner of the hotel. But ultimately, they would come in, they'd put on in these traffic measures if we said to do it, and they'd be on their way. We were interested in partnering with the community and the neighborhood that's impacted to make sure that they had a say and they gave their feedback on how these things are implemented. And that's why we're proposing to have a meeting about traffic control measures.
Okay, well, I guess my confusion is, it seems like they've already decided on the traffic control measures and that this is like, you're looking at it. I don't know, what am I missing?
So
Like,
the,
it seems like the traffic calming measures are listed that they want to propose.
they proposed measures, but ultimately the final approval was that they have these proposed measures, but upon consultation with the borough's traffic engineer and the community, they would change. They would change the measures to suit the needs of the community. So if on Walnut, they say they don't want a speed bump here, they want it here. The developer doesn't care where the speed bump goes, right? If on Leamy, they say, we don't want a mini traffic circle, we want a lighted flashing speed sign,
So
they don't.
if I propose having signage saying that there's a hearing impaired child and there's a vision impaired child, would that be taken into consideration?
If you propose that right now, outside of this street opening permit or any traffic control measures, the borough has concern for your child and your community and you. And, Mr. Stewart will take a look at how to obtain those signs and we'll consult with our engineer to make sure that they, can be put up, but because PennDOT regulates all the signs that go up, but we'll look into that and we'll get back to you at the next meeting as to, specifically what signs are available and where they can be placed.
Thank you.
Yep.
There
Right.
is
So-
a person on the chat on Zoom, Lisa Lockley says the residents on Walnut Street do not want the speed bumps. I hope you ask the residents first their opinion. On Walnut Street, it is not speeding, it's the cars going through the stop signs. Morton, don't give up. Sir, comment. Thank you.
Mr. Stalls.
Good evening, members of council. Welcome to our new and returning members.
Good evening.
If some of you don't know the backstory, you should, and it started years ago. Speed humps on Providence Road have stopped real accidents. Real accidents. I don't know about any accidents on back streets, but the traffic calming on Providence is warranted and it works. And we've gone through a zoning fight with Springfield for the last 2.5 years. We are now at this point. This developer is fueled by greed. 5 miles south side of Baltimore Pike. That's how far it is between Clifton Heights and Media when you have a gas station on that side. Okay, you have to understand that there's going to be a lot of traffic going into here and coming back out of Leamy because now you have access to a south side gas station on the Pike. I've invested a lot of time here and I don't want to see council approving this street permit because I handed out 400 flyers to my neighborhood in the dead heat of the summer this year. People came to my house, we talked about it, we got a good resistance going again, but I can't see you guys approving this. Now, I filed the right to know request and checking my time here. I'm not going to repeat some of the things that everybody else said, but there's a couple of things that really stand out to me in this in Alfredo Rico's report. An updated traffic study will be submitted to PennDOT by the developer. The results of the study should be confirmed. Review to confirm they're generally consistent with the materials provided by Springfield Township and the developer's engineer. How can you approve a street opening permit when you don't even know it? The rules are changing as you go. You have to draw the line somewhere and say, no, you need to give me everything, and then you got to hold them to it after that. The speed cushions on Walnut Street, it's not even relevant to this area, as I said before. This is somewhere else, not relevant to this project. The Althea mountable roundabout sounds like a launching pad. Someone's gonna launch right into somebody else's yard. You want that? Althea doesn't want that. I don't want that for my neighbors. And the thing that really rubs me is the developer is essentially paying out Frederico. So what good is an independent third-party review that renders an opinion when he's getting paid back through you by the developer? That's blasphemy. That's terrible. The permit that you guys have in front of you in its current state, I mean, they already poked holes in it because traffic calming measures are on there, but you haven't had neighborhood meetings. Nobody has signed off on this from the community in terms of engagement. And install through right turn lane. How is that up to you to approve? That new right turn lane is not on your property, which begs a whole nother question. When they widen that part of the road to take property, who owns and maintains it in the future? So you're giving an approval for something that's not your property?
We're not giving approval I think this, we're not giving approval for that lane. I guess maybe to the extent that it connects with the Borough road, but ultimately, because that lane is located in Springfield Township, the developer is going to dedicate that lane to Springfield Township, and Springfield Township's going to maintain it. As far as Mr. Federico goes, the borough paid Mr. Federico. The borough paid him a long time ago, and the borough is getting reimbursed for that cost. Which is just trying to be responsible with taxpayer money. There's Mr. Federico at no point ever expected to be paid by the developer.
It's not the way it looks.
That's everybody.
I apologize if I got a little animated, but there was a lot to cram in there. Emergency services nightmare. Still no pedestrian access to the site from the neighborhoods on either side. And when you say that everybody's agreed with lefts are okay, when you look at it, a municipal planning project, PennDOT approves things, but PennDOT's a bigger agency.
Madam President, I don't know how much latitude you're gonna provide, but.
We're actually, we're gonna stop there. Just keep it moving. We hear you. I certainly hear you.
Could I add the last sentence and that's it?
Before a minute. No. We gotta keep going. We gotta keep going. I hear you. I've heard you.
Thank you.
I will just, you can have, but I will just address one more thing. The pedestrian access, that was something that the borough had concern about. But ultimately, the landowners that would be required to allow that access refused to allow for the sidewalk to cross their property. So ultimately, you know, the borough, it's in Springfield. The borough doesn't have the ability to condemn a sidewalk in Springfield. And it wouldn't be in the borough's interest to do so. But you know, we asked or pushed for some sort of sidewalk to go in there. And originally it was something that the developer was considering. But the neighbors would not permit that sidewalk to cross their property and connect the Wawa to the southern properties. So. All right, so we're done with public comment.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to committee reports. We're gonna start with Public Facilities and Infrastructure, Counselor Beth Ann M. Johnson.
Thank you so much, Shante. So our first report would be the building code official report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The building code official report for January would be that 6 building permits were received, 5 were issued. 1 use and occupancy certificate was issued, and 2 contract licenses were issued. Just want to mention under the revenue inspections, there are still 25 properties that have not been inspected for 2023. Citations will be going out to those properties.
Okay, and then we'll also talk about the engineer's report.
Copyright reports on file. We need that anything of any significance is being covered later.
Okay, thank you. So the next would be the 2024 road program. And then we'll let that over to you.
Trying to do a joint resurfacing program this year with Borough. We had the bid opening tentatively set for March 21st. The Borough could consider where that at their meeting to go.
And then Bill, Mr. Stover, can you please talk about the ARPA, PA small water and sewer?
Yes, Councilor Johnson. The contract process is moving forward. I know that President Miller is having a conference with Solicitor Ewald. I did forward you an email earlier this week. They're looking for an electronic signature. Once that electronic signature occurs, at that point in time, our contract is executed. We're able to do an initial draw and engage Catania in the process of putting together contract documents. So that grant is moving forward.
I didn't receive that, so could you please re-forward that to me?
I'm sorry,
You said you sent me an email on that?
President Miller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the contract documents need to be signed by President Miller and myself.
Okay, thank you.
And then moving on to the aqua contribution offer for the trench and road restoration for $265K.
Yeah, with the Aqua contribution, we executed a letter of agreement with Aqua that we would be in receipt of the $265,000. They did ask us to send an invoice on our letterhead, which was sent about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and we are expecting that check to arrive any day now. And again, that's $265,000 that goes into the general account with no strings attached. But certainly we're gonna have to earmark some of that money to potentially offset the cost of the road program for the Rutledge Morton, which all of the roads that were disturbed by the installation of the upgraded water mains are part of that resurfacing contract that Mr. Catania is working on.
Great, thank you. And then, Mr. Catania, if you could talk about the Country Lane Basin Grant to close it out.
This is more of an administrative function. We are gathering all the invoices, change order requests, and providing them to the stormwater collaborative so that the borough can get reimbursed for those costs.
Do you know about how long that would take?
For that.
Okay.
All of that documentation should be gathered by the end of this week. We spent, and I'll just use approximate numbers, I don't have the exact numbers. We spent approximately $200,000 for the Country Lane Basin. To date, we've received reimbursement from the Stormwater Authority for about half of that money. So when Mr. Catania puts together his engineering costs to do the design and the inspection, and we complete, I believe it was 4 pay invoices that went to the prime contractor. There was 2 change orders, and then we did have some testing very early on in the project for infiltration testing that we paid for out of the general fund already. So once all that documentation gets into place, we'll turn it over to the stormwater folks. And within a few weeks, we should see a reimbursement back into our general account for about $100,000.
All right, so Chief Lawless, I'm going to defer over to you to talk about the parking meters. If you don't mind.
Sure, so we've had some issues with the parking meters related to enforcement, as well as related to collecting pay from the people who are utilizing the parking meters. The meter heads, from my personal inspection, and Mr. Johnson went out with me also, we found that the majority of the meter heads are not actually functioning. The digital displays on them are not working, they're not operable. So anybody who would be putting coins into the machines, they're not registering. It makes it difficult for an officer to then determine whether or not they paid or not, so they wouldn't be able to take enforcement action. We also have the passport system, which is the app where motorists are paying by app. And we're not doing enforcement related to that because, again, if one car is using the app, the car next to it's not using the app, but the meter head doesn't work, they got a built-in defense that the parking meter, I put the money in, the meter wasn't working. So speaking with the borough manager, he was able to get some information about the costs to replace the meter heads. It was my recommendation, based on the costs, that we actually remove the meter heads and strictly just go with the parking app. And as part of that, I have actually contacted the parking app company Passport to get more stickers for the poles, because the spaces that are located on Morton Ave, there's 2 meters on each pole. There's not a pole for each space. There's a pole that dissects the 2 spaces. So we need extra parking stickers identifying the space to put on those poles, for that way when the people are using the spaces, they're putting them in the parking and not the correct parking space. It would potentially drive up revenue. On top of that, we would advertise. We would make sure that everybody knows this is what we're doing. We don't want to catch people by surprise. And eventually, if people are not complying, it also now gives the officers the opportunity to then take enforcement action. And generally speaking, through enforcement action, you're then going to get more compliance where people will begin to use the app. So it's my recommendation that we remove the meter heads and strictly go with the Passport app.
May I ask you a question, Chief?
Sure.
But when you were out there, did the 2 of you replace any of the batteries? Because I know batteries were purchased to go into the meters back in December for ones that had where they weren't. The reason that some of them weren't working is because they needed new 9-volt batteries.
We didn't replace any of the batteries. My conversations with our manager were related to replacing and or fixing. I know he spent a good amount of time researching that, and it was cost prohibitive to actually replace or fix them.
Well, I personally bought the batteries and I know that they're in the office somewhere. So I just wanted to ask, if that had been done. I understand. Thank you for looking into this.
That's the first step for the back.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
nonetheless,
Mhm.
well, I can't really comment because I don't know how many of the batteries would actually be fixed, but nonetheless, if a majority of them are still beyond repairing and putting a battery in.
Oh, there's a good maybe dozen or so at least that need batteries. From the last time that I was involved with getting the coinage out. So, thank you.
Madam President, I did share this, I believe, through an email with you as well as the Finance Committee. Just to give everybody else on council an idea of the cost to go out and actually replace all of the meter heads. The meter mechanisms that we have right now were produced in 2012. And the lady that I spoke to at the manufacturing plant kind of had a little bit of a chuckle because she said she's the only one that was there back when those meter heads were discontinued. There's nobody that repairs those heads. There's no replacement parts for those heads. The only option is to buy brand new. The cost for just a coin operated mechanism is about $500 a head. And we would have to purchase approximately 60 heads to replace everything. So you're looking at $30,000. They do have heads now that actually take credit cards. These are a little bit more complicated since they're gonna have to have an internal modem. They are solar powered so that you don't have the 9-volt battery issue that Councilor Miller had referred to. But you also have to have a tough book and the ability to be able to take credit card payments if you're gonna allow that transaction at the meter. Those are about $1,000 a piece. So you're looking at a $60,000 cash outlay just to purchase. And both of those numbers are not including any labor costs to install. So it would probably, based on how old and how rusted those meters are, we would probably have to engage the services of a contractor to come in and do all of that work. And once you get into labor, I'd say you probably almost double the cost of what we're looking to spend. So at this time, I certainly agree with Chief Lawless's assessment that we should just be going right to the pay app.
Thank you very much. The next would be, the work order request. So soon to come out for residents, you will be able to fill out a work order request and submit it to Borough Manager if you see anything, in the neighborhood that you feel needs to be addressed. Council also has a copy of those, so as well as for yourselves. If there's anything that needs to be addressed, you have that as well, and you would give that to Bill for the items to be addressed. The bulletin boards in front of the entranceway, there's going to be a community bulletin board for you to be able to post items on there. And the other bulletin board will be for the borough. We will be posting the hall rental calendar updated with what rentals are going on and what's available. And then we'll also be posting the fee schedule, which I think is part of this packet, for permits and various items. So more to come on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you.
Finance and Administration, Council Bernice Carter.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
You want to start with our tax collector's report?
Good evening, everybody, and happy Valentine's Day
Good
in this very romantic setting. As I discussed last time I was here, that I was going to be rounding my year end, and upon that work, I noticed a extremely glaring mistake in my reports, which I wish to address here before I go over this report. At the end of every year, as you know, I turn things over to the county. Once everything is turned over to the county in my program, I have to lien those properties. It's just basically saying, all right, this stuff you no longer can collect for. Here you go. That amount from last year, which was face value was $88,889.01. Penalty amount plus penalty amount of $8,888.91 for a total of $97,777.92 was not removed from my report. So, so this year we will be turning in for unpaid parcels, face amount of $72,133.39 with a penalty of $2,013.35 for a total of $79,346.74. If you subtract that from what this balance collectible is that you see on my report, you will come up with the correct amount that will be getting turned over to the county. Right now, it's showing that 161,022.4 will be turned over to the county. No, that number is last year's that got turned over to the county plus this year's that's getting turned over to the county. So I'm happy to. I will be going back and removing that, and it therefore will flow through correctly, and I will give you updated reports. I also implemented something in my own process, a tie-out sheet to catch this in the future and to look at an unpaid parcel each month. So hopefully I will avoid this glaring mistake. How it happened is beyond me, from happening again. But however, that doesn't change what is being turned, this month, or I'm sorry, for the month of January, we collected $9,730.50. And as I stated, I will be turning over to the county. The number of delinquent parcels is 73 and base amount $72,133.39. Penalty $72,133.35 for a total of $79,346.74. That is a reduction from last year of $18,431.18. So we did collect more this year. And it really, year after year, there's not a drastic change. Our residents are really good with paying their taxes. It's typically the same people year after year after year. I'm able to catch ones that pay and maybe have missed something. So I try to do my best to do that. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, please, but I just wanted to make sure I pointed out that mistake there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. Next, we'll have our treasurer's report.
Counselors, in your package, you'll see a summation of all of the accounts that we have with Republic Bank as well as the Citadel Credit Union. The beginning balances and ending balances were reconciled by Brinker Simpson. So therefore, just going down, ending balances for 31st of January 2024 in the general account is just over $34,000. Trash billing is $18.36. Now, to give a quick explanation on that is January of last year, Unibilling combined both our trash and sewer into one bill. So that account can actually be closed, and we just have not taken the physical action of closing the account. Trash, sewer and trash billing, $2,800. Sewer fund, $198,591, and please don't get too excited. We have our first quarter CDCA bill due on the 29th of February, so that will very quickly become zero. Highway account is $105,000. Payroll just over $18,000. We have $62,000 in the capital reserve and $2,700 currently in the tax collector's report. What we've been doing is on a monthly basis, just moving everything over except for a very small nominal number coming out of the tax collector's report. We don't expect to see any revenues in February. However, the tax bills are out, and I would say by March, we'll see a significant increase in the amount of revenue coming in from the tax collector. Citadel, we've got an ending balance right now of just under $170,000 at the end of January.
I
On the
believe,
backside-
Mr. Stewart, that there was a withdrawal from Citadel.
We withdrew 75,000 in the month of February. That was.
But there was
to
February.
offset the
Okay, thank you,
discount
thank you.
Month of February.
Okay.
So, on the flip side, put together, this is be year number 3, and it just kind of gives everybody an idea of what we can expect cash flow coming in. January and February are always very lean months. However, you'll see that spike in April and, or March and April when the tax collection money starts rolling in. So, if there's any questions from council, I certainly will entertain at this time.
Mr. Stewart, can you explain the unit billing problem with everybody who know what happened?
Yeah, sure. With muni billing, what happened is that, and it gets a little frustrating because, Marty and I both go over and painstakingly will redline and mark up the muni billing, invoices as they go out. In this particular case, anybody that has paperless billing, with muni billing got a report that was an error. Once that came to our attention, then Muni-Billing was able to correct the report and send it out. However, the corrected report omitted the payment for the discount period in trash. When it comes to trash, you get a 10% discount if you pay in the discounted period. Unfortunately, in sewer, there is no discount, it's just face value. So it becomes confusing to our residents and property owners. And the fact that if you don't read the fine print at the top of the muni billing that says you get a 10% discount, we're seeing a lot of payments at the window come in paying a full face amount. So what Marty and I have been doing is spending a lot of time just explaining to the residents that, you can either bring us another check with a $30.50 deduction, which represents the discount. Or we could just apply your full check and give you a credit for your second quarter billing for sewer.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Okay, we're gonna go on to request for proposal for municipal banking services. We've been discussing that, looking into, banking. And Mr. Stewart, we were talking about, would you, go into detail about that when we're putting the bids out?
Sure, counselors, in your package, what you'll see is identified a short list of potential institutions that we could bank with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those being local. The 2 that I've highlighted in bold and one with 1 asterisk is Republic, which is the institution we're currently banking with. And then the other is PNC, which is the institution that was chosen by Springfield School District. I almost said Ridley, but I remembered where I was. Springfield School District. So I've been working with Brinker and Simpson to come up with a RFP, request for proposal. Basically, it's going to just give a summary of all of the banking needs that we have as a municipality. And then send that information out to the banking institutions and allow them to essentially compete for our business. We live in an age at the moment where interest rates are somewhat attractive, and we see a lot of value to those interest rates. Unfortunately, with municipal banking historically, they have paid us very little interest because they say that they offset all of their banking fees to 0 to accommodate our particular situation. So what we'll do is we'll put together a criteria, how we're able to rank these institutions. We should have that. The RFPs will be distributed Tuesday, the 20th, Tuesday only because Monday is the banking holiday and they're all going to be closed. We'll give those banks approximately 4 weeks to come up with their proposals. And we will have council ready to review and make a decision if we're going to change banks by the meeting in March. So March 13th is going to be the target date for making that decision. One that I've noted in here is Pledget. We actually had a Pledget purchasing card for a good period of time. However, Pledget, and this is going to be very similar to the services that Citadel has, they have a very high yield account that they provide to municipalities. And Solicitor Ewald, I get my numbers mixed up. Act 72.
Yes.
That is the collateralization of all of the municipal funds, basically saying in the event of a bank collapse, all of the municipal money gets returned to the local governments first. Pledget is actually set up for local governments. So there is the opportunity that we create a very similar situation with Pledget that we did with Citadel, where we're able to park all of our tax money that's gonna come in March and April, and just draw that down as we need to make it to the end of the year. So I did list them in there just simply because I'm getting additional information from Pledget and how we would be able to link that Pledget account to our regular general accounts and be able to move that money as we see fit. So stay tuned. It should be an interesting ride if you can make banking any of any interest, but we'll have a lot of answers to council here for our regular meeting in March.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Now, going on to the local real estate taxes, mind you, that bills were mailed out on 2/5/24, and the discount period expires March the 31st, 2024. Then we went on to our first quarter refuse, trash, and sewer bills were mailed out on February 1st, 2024. The refuge trash fee is $305 with a 10% discount of 10%, 30.50, which expires on March the 4th, 2024. Sewer face value expires on 3/18/2024, and there are no sewer discounts. That ends my report.
Ms. Dickerson, do you want to go over the disbursements?
Oh, I'm
If any
no, I didn't.
questions?
I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I have two more things. Glasses aren't working today. You'll see, the disbursements in your files, everyone. Yes. And if anybody has any questions, there's nothing really to highlight bigger or that we need to be concerned about at this time. And then I forgot to talk about the update on our hire for public works and what's happening with that. This is it. You want to talk that way, putting that.
Your counselors in your package, you'll see a advertisement for a public works assistant with a focus on facilities. I put that together so that council would have an opportunity to review it, make any comments. And if there are no comments, or whatever comments are made, we will incorporate in for an advertisement in the spirit for Monday. I'd like to be able by Friday afternoon to send this into the newspaper. However, they can accommodate us up until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, so that it would be in a Wednesday distribution. Very similar to what we did with the police chief search. We will put this advertisement on our website as well. And the deadline for receiving applications I set at the 22nd of March. So I will review with council any and all applications that come in for the position. And then council can make their decisions whether or not they want to hire based on review of resumes or whether you want to bring individuals in for interviews.
Thank you, and that is my report. Thank you. Moving on to public safety, myself. Chief Follis, would you like to get the police report?
Sure, be happy to. So for the police department, this year we've had 538 total calls. Of note related to those calls, We've had 3 retail thefts that pulls. I'd like to commend officers, Zamonski. He's conducted investigations of each of those reports. He's been able to identify the actor in all 3 incidents. He's got warrants that are currently in existence for 2 of the incidents. He's got charges pending for a 3rd incident. So due to his investigations, we were able to identify the people and they're going to be held accountable and we're taken into custody. As a response to these incidents, we've also instituted directed patrols, where officers are required to do a walkthrough of the business at least twice a day. I was up at Kohl's today. I spoke with the loss prevention manager as well as with the store manager. We're both very pleased that the officers are in there and very thankful that we're taking the time to be visible and walking through the store. Of note also, we had 2 theft from motor vehicle incidents that happened on January 11th at the Springfield Valley Apartments. I was in contact with the management and suggested that they install cameras as well as advertising the installation of the cameras and that the cameras can be shared with the police. My suggestion was for crime prevention purposes. I also suggested that it would help them for liability issues if they ever have any incidents on the property where they were being sued. I also put together a theft from motor vehicle prevention flyer that I emailed to the management of the property, and they were going to be sending that out on the email distribution list to all the tenants. There was also 3 Part 2 crimes that included a domestic violence incident, which was a result of an arrest, a fraud report, which has since been determined to not take place here in Morton, and a sex offense that was investigated with children and youth, and at this time is unfounded. Of note also, the 538 calls. What's been identified to me as some of the major incidents or major concerns here in town through either my conversations with our elected officials, through the borough manager, as well as with the officers I'm working with, is traffic concerns and accidents. So this year so far, officers have issued 78 citations. They're not necessarily being heavy-handed with that because they've also issued 54 warnings. So they've had over 125 interactions with people, and they have issued citations, but they're also giving people warnings. I reviewed the accident data. There's 15 accidents reported so far this year. 7 of them have taken place across the Morton Ave corridor. With 2 of them having taken place at Morton and Yale. I think we all can understand that that's probably because of the intersection there that presents its difficulties. But of the other 5 along Morton, none of them were repeat locations. They were different areas along Morton Ave. And in particular, I've had officers sitting at the intersection with Alpha Terrace, Morton, Avis Land, because we had complaints of aggressive driving, people running stop signs there. So besides the citations that were written, as well as the warnings that were given, the officers also have conducted 40 traffic checks. So that's different times where they sit on an intersection and they're monitoring traffic. Maybe it doesn't result in enforcement, but they're there, visible, prevention. And that is my report.
Thank you. We'll have the fire report next.
Madam President, I'll deliver the fire report on behalf of Chief Holston, but before we do the fire report, I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention. I'm sure many of you have been stuck or confused. We've, since August of last year, have had some chronic issues with the signal right there crossing the railroad tracks. What the folks at Signal Service, who is our contracted person to control or to keep the signal operational, they believe that when SEPTA did the track crossing, that they broke a conduit and nicked the wire that is tying the whole software system into operating correctly. The biggest problem is when the gates close, you typically get that left arrow to go down either Morton or Yale, and that arrow has not been functioning properly. it comes on sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. It's something that I'm gonna ask Catania to now get involved with, since, it seems as if we've had at least 4, 5, 6 responses from signal service. It may be time to talk about possibly upgrading that entire signal. The software system is extremely old, and there's only so much signal service can do when they come out here to do what I'll call the workarounds, trying to fish wire where wire wasn't fished before.
Yeah, and Mr. Stewart, also on the island, which when you're coming north on Morton Avenue, that stoplight, which has nothing to do with the left-hand turn. The stop light doesn't work. The yellow and green do, but the red does not.
That's all.
Well, it's been that way for weeks and weeks. So if it's
Yeah, Mr.
bulb, then
Catania
somebody
said
can
we
go
do that
over
while
and.
we're trying to make our commute in, and Marty was mumbling under her breath because traffic was back way up on Yale this evening. So all things considered, you know, that's certainly we need to bring signal service out again. However, every time we bring signal service out, it results in a significant cost to the municipality. I'm kind of out of my peripheral view looking at the mayor, who has got some contacts in SEPTA, which sometimes can be a very difficult organization to find the right people to give you answers. And since we do strongly suspect that the problem was initiated shortly after their track crossing work, and Signal Services was able to verify that we do have a problem with the conduit and the wire that goes under the tracks. I think a collaborative effort between the mayor, myself, the engineer, hopefully we can not have resolution, because signal upgrades are a long process, but at least we can have a better answer and a signal that's operating more consistently by the next meeting. Mayor?
SEPTA is just waiting for the report and anything else that we need, so. we just send it to her, we can work on that.
Fire report for the month of January 2024 is submitted by Chief Donald Holston. The company responded to 39 calls. The company was in service for a total of 15 hours, 40 minutes. The total response personnel was 346 members responded to those 39 calls, placing the company in service for a total of 121 hours, 55 minutes. The highest response number, and this is a great number, as I could tell from, you know, looking at other fire departments, they had 15 people. So there might have been a little bit of pushing and shoving of trying to get people on trucks. Average number of response personnel is 9 per incident. We went out for 7 building fires, 9 automatic alarms, 1 brush or trash fire, 5 medical assists, 5 natural gas leaks, 12 wire calls, 2 calls to assist police, 1 company alarm, 23 assists to other fire companies. The company did have 9 details or training sessions for a total of 39 hours, 30 minutes, which was attended by 51 personnel for a total of 191 hours of personnel time. The company had 4 training drills for 10 hours, which was attended by 51 members, which resulted in 126 hours of personnel time. 4 duty engine assignments for 16 hours, attended by 39 personnel, for a total of 156 personnel hours. And again, this was submitted by Chief Holston, Chief of the Rutledge Fire Company. Can I do the fire marshal report too?
You sure can. Guys, I think you have your next volunteer.
Fire marshal report for January 2024, and this is submitted by Rufus Stokes, who was our fire marshal. Fire investigations. There was a small electrical kitchen fire apartment at 111 Providence Road. Follow-up electrical outlet, the kitchen caught fire due to the wires being loose, and they came apart from the outlet, grounded out, started a small fire. The outlet replaces in the kitchen by the maintenance area was repaired. There was a fire inspection review. The C Senor Restaurant, which took over for Sophie Steaks. The owner opened up using a previous health department license and never got a fire inspection by the fire marshal. Code actually shut the establishment down due to an outdated fire extinguisher. The fire hood or the Ansel system needed to be serviced, and there was some electrical hazards that were found during his inspection. All issues were corrected and re-inspected. The fire inspection certificate was issued and a copy was sent to the borough office. And I can tell you that we have two very good Mexican restaurants in Morton Borough right now, so. Fire company report issues per the fire chief. The Knox Box Company was notified of changes of the position of the fire marshal and the authorized signer for the approval of Knox boxes for Morton Borough. All commercial businesses and apartment buildings will be receiving a letter from the fire marshal to purchase and install Knox boxes for replacement of keys for emergency access to businesses and apartments doing an event for emergency. So just so the council knows, the Knox box is basically a secure box that's mounted on the building that has the key to the front door, so the firemen don't have to necessarily respond to the fire and break down the front door with axes to gain entry. It's kind of a kind, gentler way of gaining access to hopefully something that's a small issue. And that report has been submitted by Rufus Stokes, the fire marshal. One thing to note, and I will turn to my friends in the fire company that are here. Rufus is undergoing a medical procedure, and he has declared himself out of service for the remainder of February, March, and possibly April. So if you can let Chief Holston know that we will have to engage the services of another fire marshal during that period of time. Probably would be the gentleman from Swarthmore. And that's all I have for the fire report.
A question for public safety. Madam President?
Yeah.
I have a question to the chief and to Mr. Stewart. Handicap parking. I have established that in front of my home. Somebody from out town had a handicap sticker in their car, visiting a neighbor on my street. We pulled up, my wife is a recipient of this handicap. Is it legal for them to park in the handicap spot that's in front of my home? It's not like Wawa or BJ's. This is a residential handicap parking spot.
They shouldn't be parking in front of your house.
Thank you.
The general common sense is that there wouldn't be a handicap spot in the middle of a block.
Mhm.
It would have to be something that's specially reserved for the resident there. I'm not familiar with the signage yet,
Okay.
as having just taken over. But in my previous employment, they would actually have the address of the person. So that way people would pull up with the handicaps, they'd say, oh, 113 Halls Ave.
Yeah.
That's that person's.
Yeah.
So, so if something like that happens, please give us a call, have an officer come out, they'll locate the driver and, we'll try and get the car moved ASAP. And if we can, then we'll discuss with you how you'd like us to proceed.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the Morton Borough ordinance does not have a reservation for the abutting residents. If that's something that we need to look into, we can look into it. But ultimately, a handicap space on the public street is open to anyone who has the handicap parking placard from the state.
Why is that? If they don't even live there? And the person, matter of fact, this particular episode was the handicap sticker in their car was not representing the driver, and it was only the driver.
Well, if someone's using someone else's handicap sticker, that's a different violation.
Okay, thank you.
It's a state violation, right? So, I don't know the citation of that, but yeah, ultimately, you know, if you are not the recipient of a handicap sticker, you cannot use it, even if it's on the vehicle that you're driving.
Now, is that above council?
That's a regulation from the state legislature. It's a traffic.
Wow. Thank you, though.
Okay, moving on to public health and sanitation and recycling, Councilor Michelle Roberts.
Good evening, everyone. On the agenda tonight, in your packet, you should notice that you have your January recycling report. And in referring to the report for the month of January, it looks like we reported 96.58 tons. And the recycling tonnage is 2.37. And the total tons was 98.95. And we diverted 2.40% from the landfill. So I'm going to refer to the borough manager, if you would give us a brief overview.
I'm gonna make Councilor Miller very, very happy when I make this statement. It's not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. The diversion rate of recycled, single stream recycled material, from what I understand, when it was being picked up curbside years ago, was between 25 and 30%. The reports that I'm getting from B&L Disposal, who is our contracted provider, is that at the moment, there may only be 40 houses that are participating in the curbside recycling. I believe that it's just a matter of getting the word out. There is some confusion is that some folks have their recycling out on trash days and their trash out on recycling days. And we are getting some phone calls in the office, just basically saying, hey, my trash didn't get picked up today, and it was because that trash was a container that was clearly marked recycle. So I think it's just a matter of we're gonna have to get the word out to the residents that we do have curbside recycling coming back. And I would expect that this would probably be the lowest number that we ever see coming out of the diversion rate. So it's just, spread the word, tell the neighbors.
Well, anything that's put out on Monday, they should pick up, no matter if it's in a recycle can or not. Anything that's put out on Monday, but if people put their trash out on Thursday and it's in a plastic bag, but they got their recycling in it, oh, that whole thing, you can't put any plastic bags in. But, I still have a lot stashed in my garage that I'll be putting out tomorrow. So I'm a portion of that tonnage that we are getting out. And also, does that count any of the numbers for what we're getting out here?
That does not count any of the numbers. That is just that these numbers represent
Okay, just what,
curbside collection.
just what Louis is getting.
So column number 1 is the tabulation of the 2023 numbers that went to the landfill. Column number 2 is the landfill numbers that we're doing this current year. And then the next column is the number of tons of the recycled material that was collected on Thursday.
Yeah, 2.37 is low next to what when we were doing this years ago. That'd be on the low end of any time, because we would get sometimes 4s and 5s each week. So people get into it.
Have you seen a corresponding drop off? People using the dumpster? I mean, is it possible that people are still recycling?
Keep it moving and then we can address that later. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda. And the composting program offered by the Pennsylvania Resource Council in cooperation with the EDCSC. And also in your packet was an information about a workshop and collections event. Backyard composting, just what you all wanted to know about. Are you unsure what to do with your kitchen, garden, and yard scraps? Would you like natural homemade compost for your lawn and garden? And if you would, here's your opportunity. If you need more information, you can contact the email or phone the PRC West or East office. If you have your package, your information is there if anyone is interested in learning more about composting.
Council Roberts, we're gonna go one step better than that. They're bringing the seminar to Morton. It's, the date is to be determined. Jamie Anderson, who hosts, her, stormwater collaborative meetings here in Morton. It's, you know, a little bit of a home away from home for her. And she is, you know, bringing the PRC, into, Morton to give us a seminar, a workshop. That date is to be determined.
Okay.
Ms. Miller, you may have some additional details of when we would expect that date, but
I don't have the details, but Diana, who's from PRC, she also lives not too far away as Jamie doesn't live far away. And they do the stormwater training together too. So they're very good at this. It's quite enjoyable. And I believe they will have free bins to give out that evening, which we will be storing some of them here for a couple of days, hopefully, before that meeting, as we have done previously with rain barrels. So as soon as they get that date, we'll get it posted.
I yield back my time.
Law and ordinance, Councilor Michelle Rose.
Yeah, earlier it was mentioned about the parking issues on Country Lane. This has been an ongoing thing about these poor folks can't get their mail. The post office, I talked to our postmaster, and he said they have to have the right of way of 15 feet from mailboxes. And Country Lane's the only street in Morton that has mailboxes. Unfortunately, there's like 120 some homes along there. So I've had stories from at least 4 different people, and as Mrs. Guy mentioned, there is probably more who didn't get mail for days and days. They missed bill payments, they missed getting a passport, and all sorts of crazy things because the mail carriers are not required with a mailbox on a post to get out of the truck and walk around and put the mail in. So we're going to try to figure this out. Talk to the chief, see what his ideas are, whether it's yellow lines or no parking signs or whatever to get these people to not park from 9 to 4 or whatever time in front of Monday through Saturday. That's just the off the top of my head suggestion to try to take care of this for these folks. So the committee hasn't met yet, so we'll get into it, but just anything we can work with from there. And then secondly, in the packet is a list of fees and permit fees from other municipalities to see if Morton's are in line with theirs. Should we review these? It's not, I'm surprised that they're not more different than the ones that are the samples from the other municipalities, but we'll look at that, and then we can develop a resolution to update the fees and permits as an inspection cost as we see fit. And if no one has any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, Community and Economic Development, Councilor Douglas Eager.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
A couple of things tonight. The comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance meeting, that's the CDBG funding meeting, that did not happen tonight. There was a conflict of schedules apparently, and several of us showed up, but the main important person did not. So I'm gonna wait to see when that will be rescheduled again and let everybody know. I was forwarded the email chain from the engineer Catania, and I'll make sure to follow up and get some information out, see when that's going to be scheduled. Next is, if you turn to the second to the last page of the packet, there's going to be a cool event on March 23rd, put on by Lisa Lockley and the Teens for Positive Empowerment Club. They're going to be doing a street sign unveiling for William E. Rice, and probably a lot of you know him, the late William E. Rice, and he was a Tuskegee Airman. So come on out to that. It's gonna be Saturday, March 23rd at 10 a.m. Yeah, should be pretty cool. And immediately following that, there's gonna be some stuff for sale, a lot of good stuff, and it should be a lot of fun. And then we're also having on the same day, council is gonna be having a meet and greet for Saturday, March 23rd at noon. And this is just something that, we have a few new council members, so they thought it might be nice to have everybody get together and just do a little meet and greet. The mayor will be there, I guess whoever else decides to make it, will be there. And so tell everybody to come on out and you can say hi to us if you haven't already. And let's see what else. We're going to try to fit in, maybe in March sometime. We're thinking of trying to find a date in March to do a kind of a late Black history / women's history, something or other. We're not really sure exactly what we're going to be doing, but something. I reached out to the Black Student Union at Springfield High School. They're going to try to send a representative down, maybe to do a presentation. Also reach it out to Ms. Lockley about the Teens for Empowerment, see if they want to get involved. So I'll keep you posted. It's kind of a last minute thing, so we're trying to get that work out, and hopefully we can do Merkel too in March at some point. So I'll keep you posted if that happens. And finally, there will be a community and economic development meeting on February 22nd. So that's next Thursday, and I believe it's at 8 o'clock. There's a couple meetings that night. Yeah. Anybody from the public, I think, wants to attend, I think they're welcome to, correct? So come on out, and I will discuss some of the events that we're gonna have going on through the year. Some of them have been proposed already. We do have a set budget, so we're gonna try to adhere to that. And but none of them are set in stone, and some of them can change. And if anybody has some ideas for some events that you think might be good for the Morton Borough, feel free to bring them to the table, and we'll discuss it. Okay, and I think that's it. Any questions from council? Okay, taking my time.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Councilor Walter Stubbs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to turn to my brother Stuart and have him explain exactly all the cases and how we're gonna spend it.
Two items for Parks and Recreation, both of them deal with the Sycamore Woods and the Jacobs Park. Is the mini program, the ecological site survey at Sycamore Woods. That was the having Davy Tree Resource come in and tag the back of the trees. Every tree in there has got a aluminum tag and a number. That tree was located by the GIS. It was identified, so they identified the species, they measured the tree, and then they gave a health assessment to each tree. The $50,000 that we spent on that is reimbursable by Delaware County. We are in the process now of submitting that paperwork, and before the next meeting, I would expect that we're receiving a check from Delaware County Council, the amount of $50,000 reimbursing us for the 2023 money that we spent to perform that work. That work was a direct result of us winning a Delco Greenways Round 4 grant, which was actually putting into place the recommendations that they made for the tree assessments. We've got $180,000 to spend. If council remembers, and maybe for the new folks of council, Davy Resource basically put a 5-year plan into place to do enhancements and preservations to both Jacobs Park and Sycamore Woods. The cost estimate that they gave us over a 5-year period of time was just about $500,000. The grant upset limit was $250,000. We had requested $250,000. The county found that our proposal warranted funding. However, they did not want to give us the full amount. They wanted to sort of spread the wealth to other municipalities that had projects that they felt were just as qualifying for receiving grant money. But they were generous enough to give us 180K. That's certainly gonna allow us to do a year and a half's worth of work. And the start of that work is to remove the invasive species that are in both of those locations. Specifically the English ivy that is in Sycamore Woods that's growing up about 3/4 of the way up every tree trunk. And then you have the poison oak, the poison sumac, the poison ivy, a Japanese bush called pawpaw, that's considered an invasive species. I have a meeting on Saturday at 9 o'clock with Amazing Grazing. And we will be bringing the goats to Morton Borough. They may be spending approximately a week here to be grazing and chopping away naturally to all of this invasive species and stuff that's not good for either one of those environments. So instead of going out there with some type of chemical spray, we're gonna go the all natural way. So stay tuned. I believe he starts booking in April. And we should have our first draw coming from the county. So let's certainly, Mr. Eager, I think we might be able to make an event out of this. I'm thinking t-shirts.
I like it. Mr. Stewart, ask a question, referencing the property behind AMVETS, that creek.
Yes.
Those trees, are they responsible to us? Are they part of parks and recreation?
No, they should be privately owned trees.
Okay.
That's why MVets had to have a service go out there and cut that tree down.
Okay.
There's also an issue that was brought to our attention earlier that the stream is pretty well clogged with down trees and debris crossing Amos Land. So I've got some pictures from Larry the Barber. And we'll have to go out there and take a look at how we're going to and Mr. Johnson may have to correct me on this, is the stream of the flow of the flow of the stream is ours, but everything else is private.
Right.
So we may have to go in there and take things out of the stream bed itself. However, anything that is on the stream banks is private.
And there's deer running behind it. Have y'all noticed, have you seen the deer? The deer,
They're in my backyard.
they're big boys too. They're not little ones, but they are along that streamline behind AMVETS. So just to bring it to your attention, I appreciate your effort. And I'm done. Thank you. God bless.
Mayor's report, Mayor Hand, you got anything for it?
I was asked to make it short and sweet. So very quickly, apparently, that Saturday, March 23rd is going to be busy. The firehouse is having a breakfast with the Easter Bunny. We managed to have it projected a little bit earlier so that all of these events can kind of flow and we're not worrying about traffic and all of that. Following the breakfast will be the egg hunt that we've moved from Jacobs Park to Socia's Field, just because of a lot of the hazards that we've encountered over the past 2 years. We will have more information in the flyer go up, but that's all I have for you today. Short and sweet. There you go. So the breakfast starts at 9 and it goes till 11, just the breakfast portion. It's $10 per person. And then the egg hunt would be afterwards. And it's an all you can eat buffet. I realize I didn't mention what exactly it was.
Is it free?
$10.
Managers report, Mr. Stewart, you got anything for it?
I will definitely keep it short. Anything, the only thing that I don't believe we discussed this evening is we are in the process of looking at doing a significant overhaul or upgrade to both our website as well as our social media presence. There's lots and lots of good events that are happening And the one recurring comment that we seem to get from most of the residents was, I would have been there if I'd known about it. So, council has me engaged full throttle, trying to get a website upgrade ASAP, as well as a coinciding, better presence with social media, so that we can get the word out to all of the residents, or most of the residents, about the good work being done here in Morton. And a calendar.
Yeah.
There's something on the calendar.
Yeah, the calendars.
Bill, question on the first item on the action items, we don't have to have a resolution for that, right?
My recommendation is, since we do need to debate the price increases, if we can debate the price increases tonight, try to get an idea of where we're at with, and then I can put the rest now.
No.
No, it's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I had the prices all listed out. I'm just gonna give a recommendation of where we go.
Yeah. Action items for tonight. Do I have a motion to approve disbursements journal for January 2024? All right, let's get into a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great. Motion to approve minutes for January meetings. Do I have a motion? So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Upcoming meetings and events, the 21st of February would be our 7 p.m. council agenda meeting. March 13th would be a regular council meeting at 7 p.m. As mentioned, on the 23rd of March at 10 a.m., we will have the unveiling of William E. Rice Street dedication at school in Walnut. And following that at 12 p.m., we will be holding our council meet and greet. Light refreshments, come speak with us. Voice concerns, opinions, thoughts, and prayers will be there. All right, we're gonna move on to our open discussion. Starting with Mario, it looks like you're first there.
Mario Smino, 46 South Morton Avenue. I'm saying this in relation to, I don't officially represent the borough on the Delaware County Green Space Task Force, but I'm on the task force and a borough resident. The mini Parks Recreation Open Space Grant, am I reading this right? Did we use all that money just to complete the ecological site assessment only for Sycamore Woods? Because that's not what that grant was for, and I've said it repeatedly in front of this council over a period of a couple of years. That's what we did. This puts me in an awkward situation, puts the borough in an awkward situation. I don't know who you talked to at the planning department, but the reason for that mini Parks Recreation Open Space study was to come up with a plan for priority projects, and I've said this over and over and over again in front of this council, that will help us then when we go for county, state, and other grant money, because we will have a plan to point to. So this is not news. So my question stands. If it can't be answered tonight, then hopefully get an answer next time. But
Mr. Stewart can speak to this, but I believe a portion of this has been, is part of the planning update, and that they're doing a park review, right?
Negative is, we basically received 3 reports from Davy Tree Resources. One was an ecological site survey of Sycamore and Jacobs. The next one was a reforestation management plan. And the third one was going throughout the entire community and identifying areas where we would be able to plant trees and improve the open spaces. I did reach out to Delaware County, and they were okay with moving forward with those reports and making the reimbursement.
well, I'd like to know who you talked to, because it's not jiving with what direction we were given at the open space study for how we were to pitch these mini Parks Recreation Open Space grants. And it was the entire focus of that grant program that year was pushing communities that didn't have this because we knew they were behind the 8 ball in getting grant money because they don't have a specific plan for their entire parks, recreation, open space plan for the entire borough. So somehow there was miscommunication here, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it. The only other thing regarding the meter heads, I understand the logic of not wanting to deal with the meters, but there's I think, state statutory issue with the Pennsylvania Cash Consumer Protection Act of 1984. Everyone, public or otherwise, as I understand, is required to accept cash for all payments. So we would have to have a workaround to still allow people to pay for cash. And the reason for that law back then was that, you know, there are still low income people who have hardships with credit card fees and things like that. I know it seems inactive, but it's on the books. Should be following the laws. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Val.
Okay, Jackie, guys, 635 Country Lane. I have a question about the bookkeeping, the treasurer. So, okay, so the treasurer left. So now we're looking at Brinker Simpson. Am I saying that right?
Simpson.
Simpson, okay. To do this, and it's gonna be around $100 per hour?
No, we're not looking at them doing it.
Oh, they're not?
No,
No.
no,
Oh.
no. There will be an ad going out.
There will be
once
an
we
ad.
Put the job
What I wanted
description
to
in
know.
place.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
See, you can stop the timer, I'm done.
Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Evil. Michael Lee, 123 West Sylvan Avenue, Morton, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, United States of America. Is this really a misprint? Because tonight's the second Wednesday, the 21st is the third Wednesday. Should the next meeting be the 28th if we're going by the second and fourth Wednesday of the month?
That's true.
I'm surprised nobody called this, including me.
for you. Wishful thinking.
Okay, and one other comment, Mr. Stewart, if the goats don't work out, we can always have goat sandwiches. Okay, now, in all seriousness, I've been mulling it over this. I'm not going to belabor what everybody else said about the Wawa, but to me, it doesn't pass the smell test. There's, I think there's probably now in this county, probably within a 10-mile driving distance, if not shorter, there's probably more Wawas than our CVS's. I know there's more Wawas than Walgreens. And Wawa's stated they're going to build throughout the country another 76 stores, I think it is. Where in the world are they getting this money from? That's something you gotta wonder about. Where are they getting this money from? And it's just an accident waiting to happen. I've given up trying, years ago, I gave up trying to turn left on the Baltimore Pike from the exit on CVS. I'm sure most of you, if not all of us, knows where that CVS is. Trying to turn left from their parking lot on the Baltimore Pike is an impossible situation. I gave up on that years ago. So it makes my journey back home a little longer, but it's a lot safer. That's an accident waiting to happen. What's what we're going to do? Not if, but when there's an accident or an injury. They're going to give up meaningless thoughts and prayers like the NRA does whenever there's a school shooting. This doesn't make sense to me. So I'm hoping the council, I hope you use the brains that God gave you, which I know you all have, and turn thumbs down on this. I mean, it doesn't pass the smell test. I don't know. I don't know if there's a payoff involved in this or not. I don't know, but it does smell to me. After all, the engineers and the developers and PennDOT, they're not living on Providence Avenue. They're not going to be living on the road where this traffic's going to be. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It really is. And I figured this out years ago. To become a head of a CEO of a corporation, especially if you're connected with Wall Street, you have the same basic mentality as a Soviet commissar. There's no difference between there's no difference between a capitalist and a commissar. They're the same basic personality. Thanks for listening. Good night. May God bless all of you.
God bless you.
Thanks, Stu.
Mr. Huffman, 1 minute. Mr. Hefner?
Oh. Bill Hefner, a couple quick questions. Did we ever get the 990 forms from the firehouse yet?
I don't think so, no.
When is the website gonna be updated so that I have the newer council members' names on the website?
So that's what Mr. Stewart was saying. We're actually working on getting that together now. So basically, we sought out a couple of web developers and now we're making the decision.
The current website you're referring
The
to.
current website, just a few name changes, a couple weeks, a month, 2 months.
That can be done in
No,
no time.
we're working with Mr. Stewart on the website.
So it should be updated. We promised it last time, but it definitely will be.
Will the minutes that got approved be up on the website next month?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then, is there a search for a new treasurer for the borough at this time?
We will be searching for it. Yes.
Okay, what would that be, a public ad or
Yes.
something like that?
Ms. Fair.
And, I already asked about, a QuickBooks person, so thank you very much. That's all I have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Boylan?
Joe Boylan, 23 Althea Lane. First, just a note that all the questions I'm going to ask tonight were actually provided to council 15 days ago, as well as to the borough office, except for Mrs. Johnson, for whom I do not have an email address. I didn't receive a response, so I'm just going to read them now so they're part of the record. I'm going to come back to the full-time hire because I hear what I wanted to hear tonight. Are all officers currently contributing 10% of their healthcare costs as was stipulated in the contract from 2012? Just a note that the coverage for Officer Kelly will increase by $26,000 sometime during this year. That will be prorated for 2024, but it will be permanent every year beyond that. So that coverage will increase to $40,000. Where do we stand on eliminating the borough's current payment for Sergeant Rodstein's healthcare coverage? That's $30,000 a year. That is also not budgeted. Regarding the bookkeeping done by Brinker Simpson for currently $100 an hour. For the 2024 budget, we budgeted 3 months for Brinker Simpson. And starting April 1st, we budgeted only $40 an hour going forward. So for every month beyond March that Brinker is paid, that is also not budgeted. So the last thing I do want to focus on, I want to read this in its entirety regarding the new full-time hire. What I wrote to council is, where did this come from? How was this determined? When we did the budget, which council approved in December, there was no budget for a full-time hire. In fact, we had hired 4 part-time Morton Borough residents to assist when needed at $17.50 an hour. They were all to be on call. That was done because it was determined that a replacement for Mr. Glenn Johnson was not needed. So why do we need a full-time person now? And what exactly is not getting done that requires a new hire now? And in other words, what has changed in 1 month since the budget was approved? And I would like an answer to that now. All the other ones can wait for future reference, but you should have discussed this and you should be able to explain why we need a new full-time hire.
Mr. Boylan, in that email, you failed to read how explicit you were concerning personnel issues and talking about the staff here. Let me finish. We're not gonna go back and forth. We chose not to answer because what the email was saying and how nasty it was. Number 2, we know what happened there. When we sat down and met with the manager, it was determined that a full-time person is needed. We looked at everything and what's going on, and that's what's happening. That's the difference in it. And we're not going to discuss the personal stuff that was being said.
I didn't do
So,
that.
yeah, you did it. You
I did
wrote
not.
it. Yes, you did.
I did not do that.
I have it. And
We have it, we all have it.
So there's
I did
no
not say
back,
anything in public
Mr.
about it.
Boylan, there's no back and forth.
Not going back.
Thank you.
So you're saying that from December to January, this was the return that a full-time person was needed?
With the Borough Council.
Okay,
Yes,
and what will
thank
that
you.
person be?
That's it.
That's what I asked.
You read the job description, if you got the, packet,
I did.
and we're going from there. I'm sorry, you can get one and ask for one.
Okay,
Thank you.
So as of right now, I calculate that you're $95,000 over the 2024 budget in February of 2024. You're $95,000 over, and most of that is permanent going forward.
Yeah,
That's not.
I'll show you my calculation.
thank you very much. Ms. Todd?
Cecilia Todd, 110 Althea Lane. Respectfully, there are 3 new members on this council that had nothing to do with the budget that was approved in December. Thank you very much. They're still cleaning up, and they're going to take a lot of time to clean up all the stuff that the prior council was involved in. So please be a little patient. They've only been on the job for 6 weeks. Okay? That's what I have to say.
I believe Dara A is left.
Dara had to leave.
Okay. Al Moden?
Thank you very much. I'm very tired and hungry.
Thank you.
We
We all
are
are
too.
too.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. The Wawa and the calls, this, and the Bank of America, they are public entities, is that what it is? They request public to come to them, right? It's not private.
Yeah.
The businesses. Now, are they allowed by law to have these businesses and not give safe passage to pedestrians to come spend money in there? And I'm talking about legal. Are they allowed?
There's not a requirement, first off, Morton,
No, no, I'm not
Can't-
talking, I'm
can't do anything.
talking, are they allowed?
Springfield would,
And,
you know, can't require off-site improvements. You know, they can require them to put sidewalk on the Wawa property or the prop, but they can't require
Right,
the,
not specifically sidewalk, are they required to have safety for people to come to their store? Are they have to have them safe or they're not required to be safe?
they're
That's what
required
I'm
to
saying.
follow the PennDOT regulations.
So the regulation does not abide them to have safe passage.
So the PennDOT engineers and review people have determined that they believe that it is safe.
Is the insurance company for the borough or the township, whatever, they approve that?
No, the Borough Insurance Company has nothing to do with approval of, and look, this is all in Springfield Township. The borough has no,
I understand. I asked the same question in Springfield. That's why I came tonight, because they told me they have nothing to do with the traffic or pedestrian. They basically gave the permit to build the building because the street is not them. So they told me, you won't worry about the street or pedestrian, that's Morton, that's not them. So that's why I came and asked you. So are you gonna give a permit to Wawa to operate without any safety measures for the pedestrians of the borough? I'm asking for legal. Is it legal?
It
And
is
the
legal.
insurance company is good with it. Like if someone,
everything's legal.
if my son got hit or someone's head was rolled down the street, they're gonna sue, the insurance company is fine with the lawsuit because you approved building that is not safe for the people who live around it.
Morton Borough didn't approve any building.
No, I said if, because Springfield said they are not,
Sir.
they're not liable because they don't own the street. They just gave a permit to build the building. So any
Municipalities
safety has nothing to do with them.
Municipalities have immunity from lawsuits. So there is no legal immunity or liability issue.
So there's nobody we can go after?
No,
Thank you for your time.
Yeah? Huh, I was betting on that.
Mr. Sauls.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. I realize I didn't state my name for the record, the first part. So Bob Sauls, 40 Providence Road, for those that don't know me. Just wanted to point out that if we're trying to talk about the common sense and if it If it smells like a fish and looks like a fish, it is a fish kind of thing. The Delaware County Planning Commission, usually these types of projects at the county level, they know the areas the best, except for the local residents. An excerpt from the July 20th recommendations and remarks from the county. The Planning Commission raises concerns regarding the safety of the southern site vehicular access onto Limy Avenue. Staff strongly recommends that this access be restricted as right in, right out, only with signage and a structural pork chop installed to prevent any left turns in or out of the site. I think they know what they're talking about. I understand what you have volleyed back to me, but I think you need to put some stock into that. I had a question. We skipped over this item on the agenda. We skipped over A7. If we hadn't volleyed during comment, what was going to be discussed on that item tonight?
Street permit. The street opening permit. Mhm.
Which number?
The street opening permit.
That was just, I mean, we've had so much discussion of it, like. I gave you as much information as I possibly could.
I was just asking what you guys are planning to discuss if we didn't bring it up, that's all.
I mean,
Just more of what you had already told us tonight.
yes, we're just being open with you.
Plus,
I just wanna make sure it's all-
that there was no discussion about the Wawa development on the draft agendas I sent to everybody. I did receive a specific request from Councilor Miller to make sure that we put something on the Wawa on the agenda this evening. That request came well within the constraints of time. So I was able to update that agenda on Monday afternoon and send out the file. So that is the sole reason why the street opening permit appears on the agenda this evening. It is not an action item. It was just simply placed here at a request from a counselor.
Okay, so, and look, I don't want to draw this out. One thing I wanted to add is just, there was some discussion, I can't remember if it was you, probably wasn't. But there was some discussion about the speed cushions and why are we improving this when the language doesn't say that it can be adjusted? And I'll just point out that on the January 17th letter specifically, that's incorporated into this permit, specifically says that these shall be relocated as Morton Borough directs, and honor before March 31st, 2024, Morton Borough may direct developer to make other modifications to the traffic calming measures, so long as such changes do not increase the overall cost of such traffic calming measures. So that's in there, and I'm sorry that it, wasn't clear, but it's in there. Thank you, sorry.
Is there an elevator speech by the website so difficult? That's my last thing.
Is there what?
Is there an elevator speech, 10-second, why we can't get the website updated promptly?
It's.
No one's asked anybody, I could do some things I've been asked to do them and I mean, the
We could
current
do
one
it
that
so
we
much
have.
better.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
He wanted to know why the website is not updated, like, why is it, I guess, so difficult?
Because they had a horrible website.
Well, let's fix that.
Yeah, that's.
That's what we're working on, if you heard me, that's what I said we're doing.
That's horrible.
It's a motion. to
Yeah.
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? So moved.